Hello everybody, Tyrone the God 3 here, and welcome back to Dragon Ball Super Reviews. Today we'll be doing the review of episode 52, Master and Student Reunion, Son Gohan and Future Trunks. This episode is character development, and it's the character development that I guess we all needed. Some people didn't want, but we all needed it. It was character development that we all had ever since Gohan was in Dragon Ball Super, fighting off against like Beerus and getting his ass whooped by Frieza and Tagoma and stuff. And we all have been stopping and asking ourselves the question of this: will Gohan have a prominent role in Dragon Ball Super to the point where he's kicking as much ass as he did in Dragon Ball Z? Or to the very least, like how much he did in the early Saiyan saga of Dragon Ball Z, like where he was still relevant. And this, Trunks plays the role of the audience member, and to be honest, Trunks' role was always kind of like through our perspective. I guess that's why Trunks was so popular, is because we could see a lot of us through Trunks, because he's entering a world that we have already come accustomed to, but from I guess from a different perspective. So either Trunks' roles were very diverse, and I think that's why he was such a well-received character, is because he always played the role of one of two things. One, he would provide exposition for the Z Warriors on things that have happened in the future in his timeline, so that they can be up to date on what happened, so that they could try to prevent those things from happening in their timeline. Two, what Trunks would do was be the outside man going in, because you gotta remember to yourself, during the Cell Saga, Trunks was the newest protagonist added to this group of Z Warriors. So his take on the Z Warriors and everything that they do, and based on all the decisions that they made, were coming from the outside looking in. Trunks was a bit of a novice, and yes, they made this joke in Dragon Ball Z Abridged with Team 4-Star, but he was a bit of a novice. As little as he knew about battle, he still engaged in it with the Z Warriors with very little knowledge. With the Z Warriors had full control of a situation, but Trunks had to expose things in order to veer them in the right direction. So with that said, it makes me curious as to wonder what Trunks' prominent role here in this saga, which is the Black Goku saga I'm dubbing it. What is his role here? Because his role here would be a little confusing, only due to the fact that he's not as strong as Goku or Vegeta, so he can't really stand a chance against Black, I guess, if Black is fighting Goku and Vegeta at their full powers. But he's, again, not weak enough to be considered to be taken out, and he's also not weak enough to be, like, kind of where Krillin, Tien, and Yamcha kind of stand in this point. Krillin and Yamcha, more or less. So, with all of that said, Gohan actually shows a very important role in this episode, because in this episode, Trunks wakes up from a rather traumatizing dream that he had, and then he goes out to go visit Gohan to see his uptake on how they'll handle Black. While this is happening, Bulma is working on the time machine, and while she's working on the time machine, Shu Mai and Emperor Pilaf are helping as well, and we can see here that Mai is infatuated with Trunks, which is making Trunks jealous. And by Trunks, I mean the kid Trunks. So the kid Trunks is jealous of himself, even though he's going to grow up to be future Trunks. So he's envious of himself? Yeah, it's a running joke, I guess, but it's a weird one at best. Anyway, they also show some clips from History of Trunks, which they turned Trunks' hair blue, and I really want you guys to hop on over to Hail Zeon's channel, because he actually explains the differences between the History of Trunks during its actual release and when it was shown, and how aesthetically it looks in comparison to Dragon Ball Super's like flashback interpretation of the scene where Kid Trunks, teenage Trunks turned Super Saiyan. So you all can go check that out, because that is a very it points out a lot of things that I can say in more time than I have to say it, because it explains a lot, like atmosphere, art, style, everything. It explains why Trunks turning Super Saiyan looks aesthetically more pleasing if you watch the History of Trunks special rather than just the flashback that was shown in this episode. Also, Gohan's facing up, not facing down when he is in that flashback. That's not really important, but I don't know. I guess it just does. To me, it does more. And his eyes are closed. In the History of Trunks, Gohan had no pupils at all, showing that he was dead. But regardless, um, yeah, so that little moment happens, and Trunks is basically figuring out what has happened to Gohan since then, because the last time he saw Gohan, Gohan was whooping ass and taking names against Cell and Bojack on Super Saiyan 2. So he sees Gohan now, and Gohan has more or less become a family man. He's raising Pan, he's living with Hercule and Videl. They all live together in a happy little family, and at first Trunks gets a little disappointed at Gohan, but realizes, hey, the only reason he's like this is because there actually is a form of peace in the earth where he has decided that family is a lot more important than constantly fighting, because fighting makes you stress. And you don't want to constantly have to end up saving the world every time. Sometimes you just want to grow up and have a life and be happy with the people. And that's what makes this whole battle worth fighting for in the first place. It's the peace that you're fighting for, and it's the reason that you're fighting in the first place. It's kind of like the episode where Gohan actually has his birthday before the Cell games, and this was important because it shows exactly what type of peace and prosperity Gohan needs to be fighting for if he wants to live a tranquil life. Which is why people got a little mad at Gohan when he became a high school student and became Great Saiyan Man and goofed around and did all of that. However, people fail to realize that Gohan didn't want to be a fighter. Piccolo and Goku influenced him to be a fighter in situations where he had no choice but to save the world or the people that he cares about. And that's basically what Gohan has become, and Trunks has come into terms to accept this, and he's also come into terms that if he wants this peace and prosperity someday, which he does imagine, he's going to have to lock down and fight alongside the Z Warriors and fight against Black to give Trunks a conclusion. Which, to this, the only reason I'm a little disturbed by this is because Trunks' conclusion sort of happened already in Dragon Ball Z. And this is what you run the risk of when you bring Trunks back, is that now you have to force him back into conflict again, which is very awkward, because he already had his moment of peace. He even states in the episode where he kills Imperfect Cell, it's finally over. Because when he kills Android 17 and 18, he says, it's not over yet. Meaning that the Earth still isn't at peace. His future time realm wasn't at peace. There is a reason that they played the history of Trunks and Trunks' episode of him defeating the androids in Cell. They played these two episodes for a reason. They serve as a prologue and an epilogue to Trunks' entire character arc. So when you bring him back, you run the risk of prolonging an already closed story to the point where it almost doesn't need to exist. But hopefully Akira Toriyama can close the book on Trunks after Black is dealt with. That is what I'm shooting for. Other than that, the episode, like I said, does a good job of character development. One of the highlight moments for me I really liked was Trunks' fight with Baby Pan. And that's kind of cool, considering also when you consider the fact that how annoying she becomes in Dragon Ball GT. So, when you take all of this into account, it's just fun to see, like, a Trunks that's around the same age. Well, not around the same age, but same voice actor probably is going to be there. And, yeah, all of those things take place. So, it's funny to see Trunks and Pan interact in this timeline. So, yeah, with that said, the next episode is titled Reveal Black's True Identity, off to the Kaioshin realm of Universe 10. With that said, I'll see you all then, everybody. Tyrone the God 3, out.